What's up, Berkeley? Today's Friday, October 19th. I'm Beejoli, and we're back with another episode of CalTV Sports Shorts. In recaps, the number 16 Cal men's soccer team faced a rough road trip to Southern California this past weekend in their second round of Pac-10 play. Ending their 6-game winning streak, the Bears lost 3-2 to San Diego State, followed by a 1-0 loss to UCLA. The team is in need of a win this Saturday as they take on Stanford at home at Edwards Stadium at 2 p.m. In women's volleyball, the number 10 Bears pulled out a nail-bitingly close 3-2 victory over number 8 Washington, followed by a 3-0 victory over Washington State. Senior All-American Andrew Pressey led the team against Washington with a match-high 25 kills, handing the Huskies their first loss of the season. Senior middle hitter Ellen Orchard took up the charge against Washington State with 11 kills and 10 block assists. However, the ladies are heading into rough territory this weekend as they take on both Arizona and Arizona State, followed by USC and UCLA next weekend. Now, let's kick it over to Dan and Vince in the office with a new segment that we like to call Back and Forth. Guys?
Thanks, Beejoli. So I'm Vince Tenor. I'm here with Dan Fiedler, and we're going to get into some football talk. So, Dan, I know that a lot of people out there still haven't recovered from the Kevin Riley debacle at the end of last week's game against Oregon State, but what's your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, well, what happened with Kevin Riley at the end of the game was very tragic, but it's important to remember that this was, by far, not the only reason that we lost this game. How about pass rushing Bears? Barely pressuring Sean Canfield of the Oregon State Beavers, their quarterback, barely at all. He had 14 interceptions compared with 6 touchdowns going into this game, and you need to force that quarterback to make the mistakes that'll help you win the game, and if you don't, then it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that he played a very good game because the Bears didn't put pressure on him. But my point here is that's a valid point, but my point is that Kevin Riley, I mean, no matter what stage in your college career you're at, you need to know that that's a situation where you just have to throw the ball out of bounds and make sure you get the field goal to tie the game up with that little time left at the end of the game. And so the other story here is that Cal dropped 10 spots in BCS, and this has been just a crazy year in college football. Tons of teams have started out at the top of the BCS standings and ended up at the bottom or even out of the BCS polls. So, Dan, what's your take on this strange season in the Bowl Championship Series?
Well, I think that this sort of season, this chaotic, a lot of top teams getting knocked off, has sort of exposed the problems of the Bowl Championship Series here. It seems to me that a lot of teams that were not ranked in the upper echelon of the Associated Press rankings have sort of trickled down to the top now, and it's not so much because of how they're playing, it's just because other teams have been knocked off in front of them, and it's sort of like a rock rolling downhill just because it has nothing to stop it,
Exactly. So do you think that with all this craziness, what do you think Cal's chances are of making it back into the top 10 or even the top 5?
I think it's definitely possible. I think that there's going to be a lot of teams that need to be knocked off before that happens, but I do think nearly all of the undefeated teams will end up having one loss, and so it'll just be a battle of the polls at that point. There will be a lot of one-loss teams, and it's just up to the computers and the coaches poll to see who they push to the national championship and who doesn't get there.
I think this year will definitely show more than any year that there needs to be some sort of change eventually in BCS play, because it is just too much of a roller coaster.
Right.
Okay, so now let's transition into our last segment. It's the men's water polo team, and they're having a pretty good year. Not quite up to their standards, but
right.
But what do you think of their play so far? Can you give us a little rundown of what's been going on?
Okay, well, the California Golden Bears are 16-2 in water polo play, and they're in second place in the MPSF right now, just behind USC. And they have a little bit of a tough road schedule coming up. This weekend they have to travel down to Los Angeles to face UCLA and Pepperdine, 2 teams with very good records who might show them a little bit of trouble. And I think it'll be very telling to see what happens this weekend and sort of distinguish Cal and maybe push them into definitely one of the elite water polo teams in the nation, or maybe fall back into the middle of the map.
UCLA especially should be a tough game, because last year at home the Bears almost lost a game to UCLA. So that could give the Bears a little problem, especially considering that they graduated so many seniors last year and they're a very young team this year. And I mean, the theme of this season is going to continue to be, will Cal be able to keep up with USC? That was the theme last year. They were the top 2 teams last year for much of the year before Cal was able to finally assert itself as the #1 team in the end. So it should be interesting to see what the water polo team can do there.
Definitely, right. It's just the nature of college sports. Every few years, you have a totally different squad, and it's just like Kevin Riley. Experience means everything in college sports.
So it comes full circle, football to water polo, and that's going to be all the time we have right now for this segment. We're going to throw it back to Beejoli in the studio for the rest of CalTV Sports Shorts.
Thanks, boys. Why don't we go ahead and check out this week's Player of the Week, Andrew Jacobson of the Cal men's soccer team. Andrew leads the team in shots and is tied for team lead in shots on goal, and is second in points and assists. Jacobson has been an instrumental playmaker to the soccer team and will be crucial this week against Stanford. But let's head on over to Jessica, who's going to give us a quick look at this weekend's upcoming games in Cal women's soccer. Jessica?
Hey, I'm Jessica Zubnar coming to you from Edwards Stadium, and if you're a Cal sports fan, you'll get a kick out of this. Come check out women's soccer today at 3:30 as they'll be playing USC, or on Sunday at 1 o'clock when they'll play number 1 ranked UCLA. If you can't make it out this weekend, be sure and tune in on Monday to CalTV Sports Highlights to get a full recap of this weekend's events. Back to you, Beejoli.
Thanks for that, Jess. Looks like women's soccer is going to have a big weekend. That's all the time we have for Sports Shorts today, but make sure to keep tuning in every Monday and Friday right here to Cal TV, your visual source for Cal Athletics.